In the heart of Lagos, a young artist named Damilare Adeyanju rose to fame with his soul-stirring voice and angelic presence. With his light skin, charming looks, and eloquent way of singing, he was adored by many. Fans saw him as the next superstar that motivate through music and an inspiration to the youth. However, behind the motivation facade was a dark secret hidden from the world. Damilare was not a decent man he claimed to be. By night, he lived a life of crime, engaging in robbery, fraud, and even murder. His victims were mostly wealthy individuals whom he lured under the pretense of business meetings and partnerships in the music industry. With every sin he committed, he covered his tracks well, making sure no one ever suspected him. He knew how to use his public image to manipulate people into trusting him. One fateful day, Damilare planned a trip to a far state for a supposed music concert. With his designer suit, expensive wristwatch, and a mobile phone in hand, he boarded a bus heading north. In his bag, however, lay the evidence of his atrocities: stolen jewelry, forged documents, a dagger stained with dried blood, and wads of cash from his last victim. As the journey went on, the bus approached a police checkpoint. The officers were conducting a routine search, stopping vehicles and questioning travelers. When it was Damilare's turn, the officer, Inspector Goke, noticed his nervous demeanor. "Good afternoon, sir. Can we check your bag?" Inspector Goke asked. Damilare's heart pounded. He had bribed his way through many situations before. Smiling, he whispered, "Officer, let's settle this here. No need to waste time." He slipped a thick bundle of cash into the officer's hand. But Inspector Goke was not like the corrupt officers Damilare was used to. He looked at the bribe, scoffed, and tightened his grip on Damilare's arm. "Step aside," he ordered. At that moment, the other officers surrounded Damilare. His bag was opened, and the gruesome contents were revealed. Gasps filled the air as the dagger, jewelry, and documents fell onto the dusty road. The officers exchanged glances, immediately recognizing the evidence from several recent high-profile murders. "You're under arrest," Inspector Goke said, his voice firm. Damilare's hands were cuffed as his fans in the bus looked on in shock. The man they had revered, the man who sang against fraud and motivate his fans, was nothing but a fraud and a murderer. He was taken to the police station, where further investigations linked him to numerous crimes. The news spread like wildfire, shaking the entire nation. The once beloved hip-hop artist now faced a reality he couldn't sing his way out of. During the interrogation, more of his past atrocities came to light. Years before, he had been responsible for the mysterious disappearance of a wealthy music promoter who had refused to finance his music. Investigators uncovered that Damilare had lured the man into an ambush, robbed him of his wealth, and buried his remains in a shallow grave. Another case revealed that he had orchestrated the murder of a fellow singer who had threatened to expose his fraudulent lifestyle. Many more stories of deceit and violence surfaced, painting a grim picture of the artist who once stood on against crime and fraudulent act. Among his worst crimes was the murder of a young girl who had overheard him discussing his illicit activities on a phone call. She had planned to tell the authorities, but Damilare silenced her forever, making it look like an accident. His ruthlessness knew no bounds. The deeper the police dug, the more horrifying the discoveries became. Hidden accounts showed he had laundered millions, using his music concerts as a cover for illicit financial dealings. Every city he had performed in carried the mark of his crimes. Families of his victims wailed outside the police station, demanding justice. In court, as the judge read out his charges, Damilare sat silently, his once adored face now filled with shame. The evidence was undeniable, and the truth had finally caught up with him. The judge, with a heavy heart, sentenced him to life in prison without parole, stating that his actions were a betrayal not only to his fans but to humanity itself. As he was led out of the courtroom, journalists, former fans, and spectators gathered, eager to hear what he had to say. In a final moment of reflection, he turned to the crowd and spoke. "To the young ones out there, let my life be a lesson. I was blinded by greed and power, and I let fame corrupt me. I lived a double life, thinking I was untouchable. But no matter how high you rise, your sins will always catch up with you. Choose the right path, for nothing in this world is worth losing your soul over." He paused, looking at the weeping faces of some of his loyal followers. "I deceived you all. I do not deserve your pity. I deserve this punishment. I only hope that others will learn from my downfall." His words echoed in the silence as he was escorted to the prison van, where he would spend the rest of his days, not as a music star, but as a fallen man whose sins had finally found him. And so, the world moved on, remembering him not for his music, but for the darkness that lurked behind the voice of an angel.